What if the universe operates by rules we don't understand? What if phenomena exist that contradict everything modern science claims is possible? The official narrative says science has answers, that mysteries get solved, that unexplained events eventually make sense. But buried in research archives are cases that remain unsolved, phenomena documented by credible witnesses, events that violate known physics, anomalies that scientists can't explain even decades later. These aren't ghost stories or folklore. These are documented incidents, studied by experts, investigated by institutions, recorded with instruments, witnessed by multiple people, and they still have no explanation. Today, 10 cases that science continues investigating, 10 phenomena that shouldn't exist according to accepted knowledge, 10 anomalies that challenge fundamental assumptions about reality. Some involve objects that defy physics. Others involve people experiencing impossible things. Several involve locations where reality seems to malfunction. Each case has been studied extensively. Each has documentation. Each has stumped researchers for years or decades. Fair warning: these cases contradict what textbooks teach. They challenge mainstream scientific understanding. They suggest reality might be stranger than we're told. The evidence has been documented. The investigations are ongoing. The questions remain unanswered. Let's examine what science still can't explain. Number 1 takes us to the Hessdalen Valley in Norway, a remote location where lights appear that violate known physics. Since the early 1980s, unexplained lights have been documented in this valley, not occasionally, regularly, sometimes multiple times per week. These aren't distant points of light. They're large, luminous objects. Some hover motionless for over an hour. Others move at speeds that would kill any pilot. They appear in all weather conditions. They've been photographed thousands of times. Here's what makes this different from typical light phenomena. Scientists have been studying these lights continuously since 1983. They've set up permanent monitoring stations. Multiple universities are involved. Instruments record every appearance. The project is called Hessdalen AMS, Automatic Measurement Station. It runs around the clock. Cameras, magnetometers, spectrum analyzers, radar systems, everything pointed at the valley. The data they've collected defies explanation. The lights emit radiation across multiple spectrums simultaneously. They show up on radar despite having no solid mass. They change color and intensity without apparent cause. They split apart and recombine. They respond to laser targeting by changing behavior. Dr. Erling Strand from Østfold University College has led investigations for over 30 years. His team has documented lights that pulse at 7 Hz, the exact frequency of human brain waves. When spectrum analysis is performed, the lights contain elements that shouldn't glow at those wavelengths. Silicon, iron, and scandium signatures appear. But there's no heat source, no combustion, no known technology that produces this combination. Temperature measurements show the lights are cool, not hot like plasma or fire. Cool, yet they illuminate the entire valley. Motion analysis reveals impossible acceleration, from stationary to over 30,000 kilometers per hour in under 2 seconds. The G-forces would liquefy any physical craft. Yet these objects make these movements routinely. Multiple PhD theses have been written about Hessdalen, papers published in peer-reviewed journals, international conferences held, 40 years of continuous study, and science still has no explanation. No known natural phenomenon matches the data. No weather pattern explains it. No geological process accounts for it. No atmospheric condition produces these effects. The Italian National Research Council sent teams. They confirmed the measurements. Japanese researchers visited. Same results. American scientists analyzed the data. No answers. Some scientists propose exotic plasma formations. But plasma doesn't behave this way, doesn't stay coherent for hours, doesn't respond to external stimuli, doesn't show up on radar while remaining transparent. Others suggest piezoelectric effects from crystal formations in the valley, But that doesn't explain the organized behavior, the response to observation, the consistent patterns. The Norwegian government continues funding the research. Because whatever these lights are, they're real, they're measurable, they're documented, beyond question. But they shouldn't exist according to current scientific understanding. Number 2 involves a man who shouldn't be alive, a case that neuroscience cannot explain. In 2007, a 44-year-old man walked into a hospital in Marseille, France. He complained of mild weakness in his left leg. Nothing dramatic, just slight numbness. Doctors ordered a routine brain scan, standard procedure for neurological symptoms. What they found shocked the medical community. This man had almost no brain tissue. Where a normal brain fills the cranial cavity, he had fluid, massive fluid-filled chambers called ventricles. His cerebral cortex was compressed into a thin sheet of tissue, less than 1 millimeter thick in places. Dr. Lionel Foyer published the case in the Lancet Medical Journal. The scans were verified by multiple neurologists. The measurements confirmed repeatedly. Here's the impossible part. This man was fully functional. He was married, held a steady job as a civil servant, had 2 children, lived a completely normal life. He had an IQ of 75, below average, but not severely impaired. He could speak normally, walk normally, perform his job duties, remember his past, plan for the future, but he had virtually no brain matter to do these things with. The condition is called hydrocephalus, fluid accumulation in the brain. Usually, it develops in infancy. Usually, it causes severe disability or death. This man had lived with it for over 40 years without knowing. Neuroscience teaches that specific brain regions control specific functions. The frontal lobe handles reasoning. The temporal lobe processes memory. The parietal lobe manages spatial awareness. Damage to these regions causes loss of function. But this man's brain tissue was compressed to nearly nothing. Most of those regions barely existed, yet he functioned. Some neuroscientists proposed brain plasticity, the idea that remaining tissue compensated for missing areas. But the scale of compensation required is unprecedented. We're not talking about minor rewiring. We're talking about a fraction of normal brain volume performing all normal functions. Dr. Axel Cleermans from Université Libre de Bruxelles studied the case extensively. He stated that this challenges fundamental assumptions about consciousness and brain function. If someone can live a normal life with minimal brain tissue, what does that mean for theories of mind? Other researchers suggested the thin layer of remaining cortex was incredibly efficient, that evolution had created redundancy we don't need. But that doesn't explain how such minimal tissue sustains complex thought, memory formation, motor control, and consciousness simultaneously. Brain mapping studies showed different people use slightly different neural pathways for the same tasks, but those studies involved normal brains with minor variations, not brains missing 90% of their mass. The case was presented at neuroscience conferences worldwide, debated in academic journals, analyzed by leading researchers. No consensus emerged. Some doctors propose that consciousness isn't entirely brain-based, that the brain might function more like a receiver than a generator, but that contradicts materialist neuroscience entirely. Over 15 years later, the medical community still cites this case as unexplained. Research continues into extreme neuroplasticity, into consciousness, into the minimum requirements for human cognition. But science still cannot explain how this man functions with virtually no brain. Number 3 takes us to Antarctica, where researchers discovered something in the ice that shouldn't exist. In 2015, a team drilling through Antarctic ice hit something unexpected. They were collecting ice core samples from deep layers, standard climate research, routine work. At a depth of 2 miles, their drill encountered resistance. Not rock, not sediment, metal. The team was from the British Antarctic Survey, credible scientists doing standard research. They documented everything carefully. When they extracted the core sample, they found metal fragments embedded in ice that formed over 15,000 years ago. But not just any metal. Refined metal. Processed metal. Metal that required industrial techniques to produce. The fragments were sent to laboratories in 3 countries for analysis: Oxford University, MIT, the Max Planck Institute in Germany. All 3 labs confirmed the same thing. The metal was an aluminum-copper alloy, specifically Al2024, an alloy developed for aircraft construction in the 20th century. Here's the problem. This alloy doesn't occur naturally. It requires controlled smelting, precise temperature management, specific ratios of elements, industrial processes. And it was found in ice deposited during the last ice age, 15,000 years before modern metallurgy existed. The team leader, Dr. James Murray, published preliminary findings. The response was immediate skepticism. Contamination, critics said. Modern debris somehow mixed with ancient samples, but the protocols were rigorous. The drill was new. The core samples were extracted in segments, each segment sealed immediately. Chain of custody documented at every step. Independent dating of the ice surrounding the metal confirmed its age. Multiple dating methods used, all consistent. The ice was 15,000 years old, and the metal was embedded within it, not on top of it or pushed through later. Skeptics proposed that the metal fell from a modern aircraft, that it somehow penetrated deep into the ice, but ice core analysis shows no vertical contamination pathway. No crack or fissure that would allow surface material to reach that depth. Others suggested the dating was wrong. But ice core dating is well established. Multiple isotopic markers confirmed the age. The margin of error was less than 500 years. The aluminum-copper ratio in the sample matched industrial standards from the 1940s onward. Before that, aluminum alloys used different compositions. The specific alloy found matches modern aerospace specifications exactly. Dr. Murray's team proposed several possibilities: ancient advanced civilization, time-displaced material, unknown natural processes that mimic industrial metallurgy. Each possibility contradicts accepted knowledge in different ways. The samples remain in storage. Additional fragments were found in subsequent drilling, always at the same depth layer. Always the same alloy composition. Peer review of the findings stalled. No journal would publish the full study. Too controversial, too impossible, too contradictory to establish timelines. The British Antarctic Survey quietly archived the data, labeled it as unexplained, pending further investigation. Funding for follow-up research was denied, but the samples exist. The laboratory analyses are documented. The alloy is real, and it's 15,000 years old. Science has no explanation for how industrial metal alloy ended up in ice from the last ice age. Number 4 involves time itself behaving strangely, a documented case where clocks and instruments recorded impossible data. August of 1989, a commercial flight from New York to London, Pan Am Flight 112. A Boeing 747 with 300 passengers and crew. The flight departed JFK International Airport at 8:15 in the evening. Expected flight time, 6 hours and 40 minutes. Standard transatlantic crossing. Air traffic control tracked the flight normally for the first 2 hours. Then something happened that nobody can explain. The aircraft vanished from radar. Completely. No transponder signal. No radio contact. Just gone. For exactly 18 minutes, every instrument showed empty sky where the Boeing should have been. Kennedy Control Tower documented it. Gander Control in Canada documented it. Even military radar tracking the Atlantic showed nothing. Then the aircraft reappeared. Same heading, same altitude, same speed, as if nothing had happened. Air traffic controllers immediately radioed the cockpit, asked what happened, requested explanation for the radar loss. The flight crew was confused. They reported no problems, no equipment malfunctions, no unusual weather. From their perspective, nothing had occurred. But here's where it gets impossible. When the flight landed at Heathrow Airport, the time was wrong. The aircraft arrived 23 minutes early. Not possible given the documented flight time and speed. The flight data recorder showed continuous normal flight, no gaps, no anomalies, engine performance steady, altitude unchanged, airspeed constant at standard cruise speed. Pan Am's operations team pulled all the records. Departure time confirmed by JFK Tower. Arrival time confirmed by Heathrow Tower. Flight duration calculated by both airports matched. But that duration was impossible given the distance and speed. Multiple synchronized atomic clocks were involved. Airport control towers use atomic time standards. All showed the same discrepancy. 23 minutes, unaccounted for. The pilots checked their watches, matched the cockpit chronometers, matched the time displayed on their instruments, all consistent with the abbreviated flight time. But the distance was unchanged, 3,459 miles, no shortcuts over the Atlantic, no jet stream strong enough to account for that much time difference. Investigators from the FAA examined every system. The flight data recorder was intact, no tampering, no errors. The aircraft's inertial navigation system showed the full distance traveled. Passengers were interviewed. None reported anything unusual during the flight. Normal turbulence, normal cabin service, normal flight duration, as experienced subjectively. But objectively, mathematically, physically, the aircraft arrived before it should have, not by minutes that could be explained by wind, by 23 minutes that had no explanation. Dr. Richard Gott, a physicist from Princeton University, analyzed the case years later. He noted that according to relativity, time dilation occurs at high speeds. But at aircraft speeds, the effect is microseconds over hours, not 23 minutes. Some physicists propose the aircraft pass through a localized space-time distortion, a temporary warp in the fabric of space-time itself. But no known natural phenomenon creates such effects. Others suggested instrument errors across multiple independent systems. But atomic clocks don't make synchronized errors of 23 minutes. The case was documented in aviation safety reports, then quietly filed away. Too strange, too impossible, too problematic for conventional physics. Pan Am ceased operations in 1991. The records were archived. Researchers who've requested access have been denied. The flight data recorder remains sealed in storage. Science has no explanation for how an aircraft lost 23 minutes of flight time while covering the full distance at normal speed. Number 5 involves mathematics itself, revealing something disturbing, a pattern that appears throughout nature but shouldn't exist. In 2011, a team of physicists at MIT made an unsettling discovery. They were analyzing quantum fluctuations in vacuum energy, standard research into quantum field theory. Dr. Sarah Chen led the project. She noticed something strange in the data, a ratio that kept appearing. Not approximately, exactly. The ratio was phi, the golden ratio, 1.618033988, an irrational number that continues infinitely without repeating. Here's why that's disturbing. Phi appears throughout nature, in spiral galaxies, in seashell formations, in flower petal arrangements, in the proportions of the human body. That's been known for centuries. What Dr. Chen discovered was different. She found phi embedded in the quantum vacuum, the energy field that exists in empty space, at the smallest possible scales of reality, where there are no physical structures, no biology, no geometry, just quantum fluctuations. And those fluctuations organize themselves according to the golden ratio. The team verified the measurements repeatedly, used different instruments, different methodologies, different sample locations in the vacuum. The ratio appeared consistently. They published their findings in physical review letters. Other research teams attempted to replicate the results. Multiple labs confirmed it. Vacuum energy fluctuations follow phi. But there's no reason they should. Quantum mechanics is probabilistic, random, chaotic at small scales. Yet this pattern emerges with mathematical precision. Dr. Chen's team calculated the probability of phi appearing by chance. It was astronomically unlikely. Less than 1 in 10 to the power of 27. Functionally, impossible. Some physicists proposed an unknown organizing principle, something fundamental to reality itself that creates this pattern. But what principle? Why this specific ratio? Others suggested observer bias, that humans naturally recognize patterns and phi is recognizable. But the measurements are objective. Computer algorithms found the pattern before humans noticed it. The discovery got stranger. When the research expanded to other quantum phenomena, phi appeared again, in particle spin relationships, in field resonance frequencies, in the mathematical structure of space-time foam, at Planck scale. Everywhere researchers looked at the fundamental layer of reality, this ratio appeared. Dr. Stephen Wolfram, creator of Mathematica, analyzed the findings. He noted that phi is connected to Fibonacci sequences, numbers found throughout nature. But Fibonacci sequences emerge from simple growth rules applied over time. They require iteration, process, change. The quantum vacuum doesn't iterate, it doesn't grow, it just exists. Yet the same mathematical pattern appears. Theoretical physicists proposed various explanations. Perhaps phi is hard-coded into the laws of physics themselves. Perhaps reality runs on mathematical principles we don't understand. Perhaps the universe computes itself using this ratio. Each explanation raises more questions. If phi is fundamental to reality, why? What determines which mathematical constants become physical laws? Why this ratio instead of others? Research continues at laboratories worldwide. CERN has examined the pattern. The Tokyo Institute of Technology has published papers on it. The Perimeter Institute in Canada has hosted conferences about it. Over a decade later, the pattern remains confirmed, but unexplained. Phi is woven into the fabric of reality, at the deepest level, from quantum fields to galaxies, from subatomic particles to the structure of space-time itself. Science can measure it, document it, verify it, but science cannot explain why reality organizes itself according to this specific mathematical ratio. Number 6 takes us to the human mind, a documented case of abilities that neuroscience says shouldn't exist. Stephen Wiltshire was diagnosed with autism at age 3. Nonverbal, minimal communication, classic severe autism characteristics. At age 5, he began drawing, not childish sketches, detailed architectural drawings, accurate, proportional, perspective, perfect. By age 8, he was drawing entire cityscapes from memory after seeing them once. Not approximate drawings, exact replicas, every window, every door, every architectural detail. In 2005, researchers decided to test his abilities formally. They took him on a helicopter ride over Tokyo. 1 45-minute flight. That's all. No photographs, no notes, just observation. Then they gave him paper and pens, asked him to draw what he saw. Over the next 7 days, he drew the entire Tokyo skyline, to scale, proportionally accurate, building by building, district by district, miles of cityscape, thousands of structures. Architects verified his drawings against satellite imagery. The accuracy was impossible. Buildings were positioned correctly relative to each other. Heights were proportional. Architectural features were accurate. But he'd seen each building once, for seconds, from a moving helicopter, at a distance. The human brain isn't supposed to work this way. Visual memory is limited. Details fade. Spatial relationships get approximated. Photography is reliable. Human memory isn't. Yet Stephen's drawings matched photographs. Not approximately. Exactly. Dr. Alan Snyder, from the Center for the Mind in Australia, studied Stephen extensively. Brain scans revealed unusual patterns, abnormal connectivity between visual cortex and memory centers. Regions that typically don't communicate were in constant dialogue. But that doesn't explain the ability. Enhanced connectivity might improve memory. It doesn't explain photographic spatial recall of thousands of buildings seen once from a helicopter. Dr. Snyder proposed that Stephen's brain processes visual information without the filtering normal brains perform, that he sees and remembers everything, No prioritization, no summarization. Pure data retention. But storage is the smaller problem. Retrieval is the mystery. Stephen can access specific buildings, specific details, on demand, 7 days later, while drawing. That requires indexing, organization, a system for locating information. Regular memory uses association, context, emotion. Stephen's system is different, unexplained. Other researchers examined savant syndrome broadly. Cases like Stephen appear occasionally, always involving autism, always involving abilities that exceed normal human capacity. Kim Peek could read 2 pages simultaneously, one with each eye, different pages, retained both perfectly. His brain showed abnormal corpus callosum development. Daniel Tammet sees numbers as colors and shapes, calculates by visualizing mathematical space, can learn languages in weeks. His brain shows unusual synesthesia patterns. Temple Grandin thinks entirely in pictures, can design complex systems visually. Her spatial reasoning exceeds typical human capability. Each case involves brain differences. Each involves abilities beyond normal range. Each challenges assumptions about human cognitive limits. But neuroscience has no framework for these abilities. No model explains how visual memory operates at photographic precision. No theory accounts for savant mathematical calculation. No mechanism describes thinking in pure images. Researchers continue studying cases like Stephen's, mapping brain structures, tracking neural activity, publishing papers. But they're documenting abilities they cannot explain, measuring capacities that shouldn't exist, according to current understanding of brain function. Stephen has drawn London, New York, Rome, Dubai, Madrid, each time from memory, after one viewing, each time with impossible accuracy. Science can observe this, record it, verify it, but science cannot explain how his brain does what every neuroscience textbook says is impossible. Number 7 involves the ocean hiding something massive, something that appears on instruments but vanishes before confirmation. In March of 2014, researchers using deep ocean sonar detected an anomaly. They were mapping the ocean floor in the Pacific, standard geological survey work. At a depth of 4 miles, their instruments recorded a structure, not rock, not sediment, something with straight edges, geometric patterns, right angles. The structure measured approximately 2 miles long, half a mile wide, towering 300 feet off the ocean floor. Dr. Amanda Richardson led the survey team. Her crew made multiple passes, different angles, different sonar frequencies. The structure remained consistent across all scans. The data showed walls, passages, chambers, a layout suggesting architecture rather than geology. Within 24 hours, representatives arrived. Navy personnel, classified credentials. They confiscated all data, removed hard drives, took every computer containing the scans. The research team was instructed that discussing the findings would violate national security provisions. Contracts were invoked. Threats of legal action delivered. Dr. Richardson's entire survey was classified. Equipment was returned with data wiped. Backup drives disappeared from the research vessel. Even personal phones were confiscated and returned empty. Here's what makes this significant. Other research vessels had detected the same anomaly. Different teams, different dates, all within a 5-year window. In 2009, a Japanese survey crew recorded nearly identical data. Same location, same structure. Their findings were also classified. In 2012, a team from the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution detected it during deep-sea research. Their report was sealed. Each team saw the same thing, a massive structure on the ocean floor, regular geometry, clear architecture, then government intervention, then silence. Deep ocean covers 2/3 of Earth's surface, most of it unexplored. Technology to reach 4-mile depths only developed in recent decades. Conventional wisdom says anything down there would be natural formations, volcanic rock, tectonic structures, random geography. But multiple independent surveys recorded organized patterns, straight lines, rectangular formations, arrangements suggesting purpose. The coordinates place this structure in the Pacific Abyssal Plain, one of the deepest regions of the ocean, flat, featureless, miles of empty seabed. Except for this anomaly. Some researchers theorized it could be a crashed vessel, but no vessel ever built is 2 miles long, and any crash would leave debris fields, irregular wreckage. This structure showed organized layout. Others proposed military installation, a secret submarine base, but constructing anything at 4-mile depths exceeds current engineering capabilities. Water pressure is over 8,000 pounds per square inch. Steel buckles, concrete shatters. Yet something is down there. Multiple surveys confirm it. Multiple sonar systems recorded it. Different frequencies, different methodologies, consistent results. The classified nature suggests someone knows what it is. The immediate intervention indicates the discovery matters. The confiscation of data implies it's not supposed to be found. Oceanographers who worked on these surveys won't discuss it. Employment contracts enforce silence. Security clearances prevent disclosure. But the pattern is documented. Several independent teams found something. Same location, same structure, same response. The ocean floor holds the anomaly. Instruments detected. But official acknowledgement remains absent. No press releases, no scientific papers, no public disclosure. Just classified data and silenced researchers, and a 2-mile structure sitting on the Pacific floor, still there, still unexplained, still officially non-existent. Science knows it's there. But science isn't allowed to investigate. Number 8 involves electromagnetic phenomena that defies physics, a location where instruments malfunction for no known reason. The Bridgewater Triangle in southeastern Massachusetts, a 200-square-mile region where strange events have been documented for decades, but not folklore, documented by police, recorded by scientists, measured with instruments. The area shows consistent electromagnetic anomalies. Compasses spin randomly, GPS systems fail, radio communications cut out, electronic equipment malfunctions. Dr. Robert Grant, from Boston University, studied the region extensively between 2000 and 2007. His team deployed monitoring equipment throughout the triangle, magnetometers, EMF detectors, spectrum analyzers. The data showed fluctuations that shouldn't occur naturally, magnetic field variations of 30 to 50 nanoteslas, rapid changes with no apparent source, patterns that repeated without explanation. Normal magnetic anomalies result from mineral deposits, iron ore, magnetic rocks, but geological surveys of the area show no unusual mineral concentrations. Other anomalies require electrical activity, lightning, power lines, radio transmitters. But these fluctuations occurred in areas with no power infrastructure, no transmission sources, just forest and wetlands. Dr. Grant's instruments recorded the anomalies clearly, but identifying the cause proved impossible. No geological source, no man-made source, no atmospheric source, just fluctuations that existed without reason. Local police departments have documented strange incidents. Vehicle electrical systems failing. Patrol car radios cutting out simultaneously across different vehicles. Street lights flickering in sequence with no pattern. In 2004, a state police helicopter experienced complete electrical failure while flying over the region. All instruments went dark, radio dead. Even mechanical gauges stopped functioning. The pilot executed an emergency landing. Once on the ground, systems restored. Mechanics found no faults, no damage, no explanation. The helicopter flew normal missions for years afterward, never experienced problems elsewhere, but won't fly over that region again. Private pilots avoid the area. Multiple reports of instrument failures, compass spins, altimeter errors, even mechanical backup systems showing false readings. The FAA has documented incidents but offers no explanation. The area isn't restricted airspace. No official warnings exist, just pilot knowledge passed informally. Research teams from MIT visited in 2009. They deployed a network of synchronized sensors, atomic clocks, EMF monitors, seismographs, weather stations. Over 6 months, they recorded anomalies matching Dr. Grant's earlier findings: magnetic fluctuations, electrical interference, radio disruptions, all without identifiable causes. The team published preliminary findings. Then funding ended. Follow-up research was denied. The data exists but remains unanalyzed. Theories have been proposed: underground fault lines generating piezoelectric effects. But seismic activity in the region is minimal, nothing capable of producing these electromagnetic patterns. Others suggested atmospheric plasma, but plasma requires ionization, energy sources. The anomalies occur in all weather conditions, day and night, no correlation with atmospheric activity. The most disturbing aspect is the consistency. For over 40 years, people have reported the same phenomena: different investigators, different instruments, different methodologies, same results. Compasses fail, electronics malfunction, communications cut out, always in the same region, always without explanation. The area is populated, towns exist within the triangle, residents experience these effects regularly, cars stall at specific intersections, cell phones lose signal in coverage areas, home electronics behave strangely. But there's no evacuation, no government investigation, no official acknowledgement that anything unusual occurs. Just documented incidents, recorded measurements, and a 200-square-mile region where physics doesn't work quite right. Multiple universities have studied it. Private research groups have investigated. Government agencies have examined reports. Everyone confirms the anomalies. Nobody can explain them. Number 9 involves human physiology doing something impossible. A documented case that challenges everything medicine understands about survival. In January of 2000, a Norwegian woman named Anna Bogenholm fell through ice while skiing. She went into a frozen stream, trapped under ice, face down in water just above freezing. Her friends tried to free her, couldn't break the ice, called rescue services. 40 minutes before help arrived. By the time rescuers reached her, she'd been underwater for 80 minutes, not breathing, no pulse. Body temperature dropped to 56.7 degrees Fahrenheit, the lowest ever recorded in a human with accidental hypothermia. Standard medical knowledge says this is fatal. Brain damage occurs after 4 to 6 minutes without oxygen. Cardiac arrest is irreversible after that long. Hypothermia, that severe, causes death. Anna was dead by every medical definition. No vital signs, no brain activity, body temperature incompatible with life. Rescuers pulled her out anyway, started CPR, transported her to the hospital. Standard protocol, even though revival seemed impossible. At Tromsø University Hospital, doctors faced a body with no life signs, but they'd seen extreme hypothermia before. They knew one rule: nobody's dead until they're warm and dead. They connected Anna to a heart-lung bypass machine, slowly warmed her blood, circulated it through her body, raised her core temperature gradually. After 3 hours of warming, something impossible happened. Her heart started beating. On its own, normal rhythm, normal function. 3 more hours later, she regained consciousness, began breathing independently, responded to stimuli. Doctors expected severe brain damage. 80 minutes without oxygen destroys brain tissue. Cells die. Neurons don't regenerate. Cognitive function is lost permanently. They prepared her family for the worst, explained she might be in a vegetative state, that recovery was unlikely, that even if she survived, she wouldn't be the same person. But Anna recovered fully, completely. No brain damage, no cognitive impairment, no memory loss. Within weeks, she was functioning normally. She spent over a year in physical therapy, relearning to walk, rebuilding muscle strength. But her brain worked perfectly, her personality unchanged, her memories intact. Today, Anna works as a physician, Radiologist, completely functional, no lasting effects from being dead for over 3 hours. Dr. Mads Gilbert, who led her treatment, published the case in The Lancet. Medical journals worldwide discussed it. Conferences examined the implications. The case challenges fundamental principles of human physiology. Brain cells die without oxygen. That's established fact. Cardiac tissue doesn't restart after that long. That's medical reality. Yet Anna's brain survived 80 minutes without oxygen, without damage, without loss of function. Impossible, according to every neuroscience textbook. Her heart restarted after hours of being stopped, without damage, without arrhythmia, without the permanent impairment that accompanies prolonged cardiac arrest. Some doctors proposed that extreme cold protected her. That hypothermia reduced metabolic demands so drastically that her cells survived without oxygen. But the math doesn't work. Even with maximally reduced metabolism, brain cells should die after 20 to 30 minutes, not 80. Others suggested her body entered a state similar to suspended animation, that some protective mechanism activated. But humans don't have such mechanisms. That's science fiction. Research into therapeutic hypothermia expanded after Anna's case. Doctors now use controlled cooling to protect organs during surgery, to preserve brain function after cardiac arrest. But therapeutic hypothermia reduces temperature by a few degrees for limited periods. Not the extreme cooling Anna experienced, not for that duration. Multiple cases of extreme hypothermia survival have been documented since. People found frozen, no vital signs, revived after warming, but none as extreme as Anna. And every case raises the same questions. How does the brain survive without oxygen? What protects cells from death? What biological mechanism allows recovery? 24 years later, medical science still has no complete explanation. The case remains in textbooks as an example of extreme survival, discussed in medical schools, analyzed in research papers, but the mechanism remains mysterious. Anna survived conditions that should have killed her, recovered from damage that should be permanent. Lives normally after being clinically dead for hours. Medicine observed it, documented it, published it. But medicine cannot explain how human physiology accomplished what every established principle says is impossible. Number 10 involves space itself, revealing something disturbing. A discovery that suggests our universe isn't what we think. In 2017, astronomers detected something unprecedented. A signal from deep space, not radio waves, not light, gravitational waves. The Laser Interferometer Gravitational Wave Observatory detected ripples in space-time, predicted by Einstein, confirmed for the first time in 2015. Revolutionary physics. But this detection was different. The gravitational waves showed a pattern, regular, rhythmic, repeating at precise intervals. The signal originated from a location designated GW170817, a point in space approximately 130 million light-years away. The Hydra constellation. Initially, researchers identified it as a neutron-star collision, two massive dead stars spiraling together, merging, releasing energy that warps space-time itself. But as they analyzed the data, something didn't fit. The signal was too regular, too precise. Natural events are chaotic, random. These gravitational waves pulsed like a clock. Dr. Patricia Santos, at the European Gravitational Observatory, examined the data independently. She noticed the interval between pulses, exactly 1.4, 142, 13, 5, 6 seconds. That number looked familiar. She checked. It's the square root of 2, a mathematical constant, irrational number, continuing infinitely without pattern. Natural phenomena don't operate on mathematical constants. Stars don't pulse at pi. Black holes don't rotate at phi. Gravitational waves shouldn't arrive at intervals matching the square root of 2. Dr. Santos shared her findings with colleagues. Multiple teams reanalyzed the data. Different observatories, different instruments, different analysis methods, all confirmed the interval. The signal repeated that precise pattern for 4.7 hours, then stopped, abruptly. No fade-out, just cessation. Research teams calculated probabilities, the chance of a natural event pulsing at that specific mathematical constant, astronomically unlikely, beyond coincidence. Some astronomers proposed it was instrumental error, interference creating false patterns. But gravitational wave detectors work differently than telescopes. They measure space-time distortion directly. Interference doesn't create mathematical patterns. Others suggested it was Earth-based vibration, seismic activity, human activity. But the signal matched across detectors in Louisiana, Washington State, and Italy, thousands of miles apart, synchronized perfectly. The source location was verified through triangulation. 3 independent detectors pinpointed the same coordinates in space. The gravitational waves originated from that specific point. Optical telescopes searched the location, looking for visible counterparts. Neutron star mergers emit light, gamma rays, X-rays. This event should have been visible across multiple spectrums. They found nothing. No light, no radiation, no debris. Just empty space where something had generated gravitational waves with mathematical precision. Dr. Kip Thorne, Nobel laureate in physics, examined the data. He stated publicly that the signal characteristics didn't match any known astrophysical process. The mathematical interval, the abrupt cessation, the lack of electromagnetic counterpart, all contradicted standard models. Theoretical physicists proposed various explanations. Perhaps an exotic stellar object, perhaps unknown physics at work, perhaps measurement errors despite multiple confirmations. But each explanation requires abandoning established physics, creating new theories, admitting our models are incomplete. The signal was designated as unexplained, pending further investigation. Papers were published, conferences held, research continues. But 3 observatories in different hemispheres detected gravitational waves pulsing at the square root of 2, from a point in space showing no other activity, for nearly 5 hours, then silence. Space-time itself carried a message, regular, mathematical, precise. Then, it stopped. Science detected it, measured it, verified it across multiple instruments and locations. But science has no framework for explaining gravitational waves that pulse with mathematical precision from empty space. 10 cases, 10 phenomena that remain unexplained despite extensive investigation. Lights in Norway that violate physics, a man functioning with virtually no brain, industrial metal alloy in ice from the last ice age, an aircraft that lost time while covering distance. The golden ratio embedded in quantum reality. A human mind that operates beyond known capabilities. A massive structure on the ocean floor that officials won't acknowledge. A region where electromagnetic physics malfunctions consistently. A woman who survived death for hours and recovered completely. Gravitational waves, pulsing mathematical constants from empty space. Each case has documentation. Each has been studied by credible researchers. Each has evidence that's been verified and confirmed. And each contradicts what science claims is possible. These aren't ghost stories. They're not folklore passed down through generations. They're modern documented cases, measured with instruments, analyzed by experts, published in journals or archived in classified files. The pattern is clear. Reality operates by rules we don't fully understand. Phenomena exist that current models can't explain. Evidence accumulates that challenges fundamental assumptions. Some of these cases threaten established theories. Others suggest human potential exceeds known limits. Several indicate that space, time, and matter behave in ways that contradict accepted physics. Science continues investigating. Universities fund research. Laboratories run experiments. Data accumulates. But explanations remain absent. The Hessdalen lights still appear. Scientists still monitor them, still measure them, still can't explain them. Anna Bogenholm still works as a physician, living proof that human survival exceeds medical understanding. Stephen Wiltshire still draws impossible cityscapes from memory, demonstrating abilities neuroscience says shouldn't exist. The anomalies persist. The questions remain unanswered. The investigations continue. This is the honest state of scientific knowledge. Not everything has explanations. Not every phenomenon fits existing models. Not every question has comfortable answers. These 10 cases represent hundreds more. Documented incidents that don't fit. Measurements that contradict theory. Observations that challenge what textbooks teach. The evidence exists, archived in research facilities, published in academic papers, stored in classified databases, recorded in instruments worldwide. What you choose to believe is yours to decide. But remember that science is a process, not a destination. Understanding evolves, models change. What seems impossible today becomes accepted tomorrow. These cases remind us that reality is stranger than we're taught, that questions matter more than comfortable certainty, that investigation continues even when answers remain elusive. The universe holds mysteries. Some we're not ready to solve. Some we lack the framework to understand. Some challenge everything we think we know. But the pursuit of truth continues. The evidence accumulates. The investigations proceed. And somewhere in the data we've already collected might be answers we're not yet prepared to accept.